have you ever been in a situation where you're trying to communicate your need? Maybe you're hurt about something, or somebody said something to you that didn't settle well with you, and you're trying to communicate back to them without criticizing how you felt. And then instead of someone hearing what you're saying and engaging with what you're saying and acknowledging how you feel, they probably became defensive and tried to fight you or say things that actually ended up hurting you even more. And then when you just wanted to come for acknowledgement, it ends up being a fight that goes on and on and on and loses the whole concept of why you came into the conversation. I've been in this situation so many times in the past, and I've struggled personally with communication. And this is why I made this video for you and for me. So probably, hopefully you could learn from it. Welcome back to Below the Surface, Conversations for Men by Men. One of the biggest questions that I ask men that come on the platform is, what has been one of your greatest challenges in life? And I've never really taken time to answer this question myself on this platform. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to do just so. The greatest challenge for me has been communication. And I've taken time in the past months and years to try and figure out what is the best way to communicate, especially in my intimate relationships with women. And the thing that I found to work the best after reading so many books and having so many conversations with different men in and out of this platform has been nonviolent communication. If you don't get to the end of this video, I want you to walk away with this one idea that I think is really fundamental to how this strategy that I'm about to share works. And that thing is that whenever we're hurt, whenever we feel upset at wherever in our life it is, maybe our partner or the people that we work with, it's not because they've done something to us, but rather the fact that we have a particular need that we have. It may be a need to be respected. It may be a need to always have good communication with others. It may be a need to feel valued. When that need is not met, that's when we become upset. Through the 4 steps of nonviolent communication, you can walk away guaranteed from any disagreement, from any conflict with a resolution. You're guaranteed for somebody to be able to listen to you during that time and to acknowledge how you felt and why you felt it and find resolution and ask and request for different ways that communication could have gone. The first part of nonviolent communication is observing without evaluating. What this means is that at most times people become defensive when we give them feedback because they feel they're being attacked. They feel they're being attacked because we often evaluate rather than just observe what is happening. I'll give you an example. When somebody in a meeting is talking too much, we may be tempted to say, "You talk too much." And if you ever give somebody that feedback, you could imagine in a situation where they respond back saying, "No, I don't talk too much." So instead of you telling them that you're really annoyed by how they've behaved, you now get yourself stuck in a cycle where you're trying to prove to somebody that what they did is bad, and they're trying to prove to you that what they did is right. But to avoid that, which is the first step of nonviolent communication, is just observing without evaluating. And an example that actually happened in my personal life, where my girlfriend had done something to me that I wasn't happy with. She was snapping at me, she was cutting me off, and I considered that in my own evaluations to be her being aggressive. And so I approached her and I was like, "Yo, lately you've been very aggressive. What's going on with you? Are you spending more time in meditation or not?" And then she was like, I'm not being aggressive. Are you calling me aggressive? Does that mean I'm always aggressive?" And then she got very defensive and started crying, and the whole thing was a mess. But what I could have done instead was approach her and say, "Look, in moment 1, moment 2, I observe you did 1 and 2 things, and this is why I'm here, and this is how I feel." That is essentially observing without evaluating. The second part of nonviolent communication is identifying your feelings. So like I expressed initially, the whole concept of nonviolent communication is based on the idea that we all have needs. So when you're identifying your feeling, you connect it back to your need. Your feelings should always be communicated back to your need. Most of the time, we're tempted to connect our feelings to what somebody did. For example, in my situation, I went to my girlfriend and said, look, I'm angry, I'm upset, you've been cutting me off, you did this, and that's why I'm hurt. But that already is blamatory, and someone is going to feel the need to defend themselves and is not going to give you what you need, which is for them to listen to you, to understand why you feel the way you feel and address it. So instead of doing that, what you need to really be doing is identifying your feelings and then connecting them back to the need that they didn't meet. In my situation, essentially it was to say, look, I feel hurt. I feel that I'm not being heard, and I feel discouraged in my communication with you because I have a need that whenever we communicate in a kind manner to each other. And so when that need wasn't met, I was really upset. That allows her to communicate that if she feels that she can meet my need, she can easily communicate that, look, I didn't meet your need in that situation, but actually I feel I want to get closer to you and I want to communicate better. Let's work on it. But because of how I communicated, instead she fought back and said, look, I'm not an aggressive person, and you saying that I'm aggressive is actually making me upset. So instead of her addressing how upset I was, she ended up addressing me saying that she was aggressive. The third part of NVC involves communicating your need. But before we get to that part, I also want to stress the thing that when we're expressing and identifying our feelings, we only mention our feelings outside our interpretation of how we feel. Let me give you an example. In so many times in my conversation in the past that I felt, I would come and, for example, say, I felt disrespected. I felt like you're being aggressive. But that is not a feeling. You don't feel that someone is being aggressive. You don't feel disrespected. What you do feel is hurt, angry, upset. And rather than coming to somebody saying, I felt disrespected by you, which they're most likely to be defensive on, and which is full of criticism, because already you're criticizing somebody and someone is going to feel the need to either fight or flight. To avoid that, you just communicate how you feel. And it connects to the third thing, which is stating your need. By stating your need, you allow somebody to meet you in the middle. You allow somebody to understand why you felt the way you felt. And in this way, they don't feel like it was their fault. And whenever they address it, they don't address it from a place of guilt, from feeling like they disappointed you or they let you down, but they feel like they have a chance to solve a situation without feeling criticized or demeaned. The fourth and last part of nonviolent communication concerns requesting. At the end of the day, after all this is done, you're almost to the finishing line. You have stated your observation without evaluating. You didn't criticize, they didn't feel criticized, and you stated your feeling, you connected back to your need. Now it's time for the home run. Let's go all the way, right? Now it's time to request. You make a request to someone, and the request is always in this form. Are you willing? This is my request. Are you willing to meet me here? So for example, in my situation, a home run would look more like this. Hey, when you did this, I noticed that I observed that you've been cutting me off, and you cut me off in these particular situations, which resulted me in feeling hurt or feeling upset because it didn't meet my need, which is to feel that you hear me when we communicate, which is that you completely engage with me when we communicate and nobody is cut off. And as a result, would you be willing, I request that when we communicate, you don't use these words or don't cut me off so that we're all happy, right? So that would have been a request. So essentially, this is the 4-part process of NVC. I'll restate it so you remember it. The first part is observations without evaluating, where you do state what you're seeing and what made you upset, essentially. And the second part is stating your feelings, which is essentially where you're talking about attributing whatever you felt, and clearly without criticism telling the other person what it is that you felt, which is And it's important in this situation to note that your feelings are without any evaluation, because somebody can feel criticized and then become defensive. And the best way to do this is go to the basic thing. For example, like somebody, you felt disrespected. Don't say you felt disrespected, because that's not a feeling. Think of exactly how you ended up feeling disrespected. And then after that, you move to the basic feeling, which is maybe feeling hurt or upset or whatever it is. Then the third part is essentially communicating what is the need that wasn't met that made you upset. And the last thing is just requesting. And with this, I promise you, you can walk away from any conversation and any disagreement with your partner, with people at work, with anybody, feeling that you've been heard and them feeling that they heard you, and then you can find resolution. We've made sure to attach a worksheet below, in the link below. Please take this worksheet. It will help you approach nonviolent communication. It is all the strategies that I talked about. And I would also want to hear your feedback on it. Let me know what your experience has been. My experience has been completely positive with nonviolent communication, and it has worked for me. I want to know your frustrations. I want to know where you are. I also want to know, how do you communicate with your partners? It's a great learning especially for this time, and very relevant to a time where we are constantly feeling emotionally exhausted and not knowing how to communicate effectively. I hope it becomes a change to your life. And if it does, please let me know. You can comment below or like or share with me in any other platform on Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to hear it. Thank you.